Hey folks, Crimson Blaze here. Welcome to another hammock camping video. With the backpacking season coming upon us, I've been thinking about the different types of hammocks I want to take on my trips this year. And then I started thinking, you know what? I think this is going to be the year of the Dutch Banyan Bridge Hammock. It's one of my most comfortable hammocks that I have, but I typically only take it on certain type of trips. But I think I'm going to commit this year to using my bridge hammock on all of my backpacking trips. So I thought I would talk about the specs of the hammock, as well as a few pros and cons for why you may or may not want to use this type of bridge hammock. So let me go get it set up and let's talk about it. The first thing I'm going to do is find the distance between my two trees using my measure tape app. Pull that up. This will be my first anchor point. All right. And we'll come to my second tree. Create my second anchor point. And now I'll find out what that distance is between. Looks like it's 18 feet and 2 inches. So what I'll do now is I'll take that distance that I found on my measure tape app and then I'll put it in my ultimate hang app, and that'll tell me how high that I need to hang my hammock straps for a bridge hammock. So I pull up my ultimate hang app and select my settings button. As you can see, I've already preset my hammock style to bridge. My hammock length is 132 inches, and my ridge line for the Banyan Bridge Hammock is specifically 117. So I set it to that. The other things that you'll see different is my hang angle. So instead of like 30 degrees for a gathered end, I typically find my suspension is around 0 degrees, maybe 5 degrees, but I'm gonna put in 0 and just see how that plays out. The thing I'll need to change now is my anchor distance. So what I say, 18 feet, 2 inches. 2 inches, that's about, I want to say 18.3 feet. All right. So that says my hang point should be around 4.9 feet high on the tree. So let's go see if that works out well. First, let me put the spreader bar on my head end. Now let me put in the spreader bar at my foot end. There we go. That's the bridge hammock. The physical length of the hammock that you're laying in is 80 inches long, and Dutch recommends that a person up to 6 foot 3 inches could fit comfortably in this hammock. And the head end of the hammock, you can always tell there's that little red mark, is 38 inches wide, and the foot end of the hammock is 28 inches wide. So it's still wide enough at the bottom to fit a 25-inch wide sleeping pad. Now for the ridge line, from these little T-bone connections from end to end is 117 inches long. And that's what I put into my ultimate hang app. Dutch says that the maximum recommended weight for the bridge hammock is 250 pounds. The weight of the hammock itself is 29 ounces, and that's significantly heavier than my Dutch Chameleon, more than half a pound, I believe. Even with my Chameleon and all of its accessories, this is still more than a half a pound heavier than that, and definitely a lot heavier than my Dutch netless hammock. But it is an extremely comfortable hammock. So with that being said, let me talk about some of the pros of the bridge hammock and why you may want to consider it for your next hammock camping trip. The number one benefit of the Banyan Bridge Hammock is it is extremely comfortable. Now, I love my Dutch Chameleon and I get a pretty good night's sleep in that when I'm out on the trail, but there is nothing that compares to the sleep that I get in this bridge hammock. And that's because it is, it gives you that true flat lay. So I'm not worried about laying, left to right, right to left. I don't have any pressure underneath my knees. It's more like sleeping at home in my bed. And so I get my best night's sleep when using my bridge hammock. I will sleep all the way through the night and not even wake up when I'm using this type of hammock. So to me, that is a huge, huge bonus when you're out on the trail and sleep is a priority. The Dutch Banyan Bridge Hammock is going to deliver that in spades. And it's just really an extremely comfortable hammock. The second benefit of using a Dutch Banyan Bridge Hammock that I think makes it better than other bridge hammocks is that, similar to the Chameleon, it is customizable. So for example, this bug net, you can zip it on and off. So it's not, sewed in. So if you want to go netless, you could take off this bug net, or during wintertime, if it gets cold, then you could put on a top cover. And that's similar to the Chameleon. You can add things on here and customize it to your trip. And I just think that is what makes Dutch hammocks really special. And similar to my Chameleon, you can also get a side sling. So I don't have one for this, but you could. He has an accessory on here where you could zip it on to the side, just like I do my Chameleon, and that'll allow for extra gear that you want to put on your side. He has a shelf, a shelf organizer that you can put on these ridge lines here. You can see I have my own that I kind of created, but you can have a shelf organizer that you have on here, and that just makes it really customizable. And that's what I like. That's what I really like about this bridge hammock, is that Dutch has created so you can fit it to the needs of your trip. And I love the flexibility that this bridge hammock gives me. Speaking of customizable, let me throw back this bug net here a little bit. Let's get a look at the inside of this hammock. As you can see, it is a true flat lay. That's how you can get your comfortable sleep. It has two ridge lines for hanging the hammock. And you'll notice this is something of my own invention that I just created, that I put on the ridge lines. I may put small little things here that I want to access through the night. But Dutch also sells some accessories for your head end. This is my head end, or the foot end. These little pockets that you can create and put some of your gear in if you don't want a side sling. So I don't have a side sling like I do on my Dutch Chameleon that would hang off here. Instead, I just opted for I'm just going to call it a little pouch that I have at my head end, and I can put my beanie, my gloves, I can put headlamp, phone, power bank, stuff like that. And I believe he also has one that you can put on your foot end as well. So he has a ton of accessories for this bridge hammock that really makes it really functional and useful as you're out there on the trail. Another benefit of a bridge hammock is the view from the hammock. Now, if you're familiar with a gathering hammock, you know, the walls, they wrap up around you and you feel like you're a burrito or a taco stuck in your hammock. And I've heard some people talk about how they're claustrophobic and they don't like being just completely consumed inside of their hammock. They want to be able to see out. Well, that's the benefit of this bridge hammock here, is that there are no walls now. There's no walls popping up, right? Because I don't have to lean left to right or right to left, and my hammock just stays flat. And so now, you know, I have an excellent view out both sides, and I don't have that closed in feeling because now I can easily see outside of my hammock. So I think that is a huge benefit because I love laying in my hammock. You know, if I have my tarp pulled back, I can see the stars, and that's wonderful. I can see all around me, especially if things are coming into my camp. You know, I have a full view of my left and my right looking out, and I just think that is a huge benefit of a bridge hammock. Now let's talk about a few cons of the bridge hammock. And the first and most obvious is the weight. Like I said earlier, it weighs 29 ounces, so that's almost 2 pounds. I still think that's good compared to a tent. So in comparison, that's really not bad at all, and actually that's pretty good. But in comparison to my other hammocks, that 29 ounces is significantly heavier. And that's why a lot of times I don't take this hammock on my trips. Typically, I would have taken this hammock on, you know, if I'm just going to hike in a few miles on one day, maybe set up base camp, or if I'm car camping, you know, that's when I would take that. When weight really isn't that big of an issue, because maybe I'm not hiking as big of miles. But that's the reason I don't take this hammock on most of my trips, because I do get my best night's sleep, but I still get a good night's sleep out of my Dutch Chameleon. It weighs a bit less than this. So that really, to me, is the number one con, is the weight. Another issue I have with the bridge hammock is, you know, getting into one is a bit trickier. You know, in comparison to my gathering hammock, it can be a bit tippy. You know, as my weight now is on the front, it takes a little bit of balancing as you are trying to get into your hammock. You know, if you have weight too much on one side, it's going to feel like you're going to flip over. So that's something that you're going to have to deal with when trying to get into a bridge hammock. Just not as easy, I think, as a gathered-in hammock. Another thing that I have an issue with is just the ability to lounge in a bridge hammock compared to a gathered-in hammock. And if you've seen any of my backpacking videos, you know that's one of the things that I love to do. I love to lounge in my hammock, and it's just not as comfortable. I'm not saying it's uncomfortable, but it's not as comfortable. Like right now, I'm sitting on the very edge and I have this ridge line that's just kind of in my back. It's not the most comfortable thing, but I can easily sit in my hammock around camp. That's not an issue. Or, you know, I'll pull back my bug net and I'll put my head in between both of my ridge lines. And again, you know, you can sit up in it easily. It's a little bit weird having this ridge line in front of my face, but you know, it's obviously it's doable. You can sit in it, but I'm still not lounging, right? I'm still not lounging yet. So that's going back beyond my other ridge line. And this is okay. You know, like I'm saying, it's not uncomfortable, but with my gathered in hammock, you know, I have that fabric that comes all the way up to like my shoulders and back of my neck, and it has that bug net, and I can just really put all my weight back and just lounge. And I can even take a nap in my gathered in hammock that way. I wouldn't be able to do that with here, you know, because this fabric here is like in the middle, lower part of my back, and it's not very comfortable. The bug net doesn't really hold all my weight. If I'm leaning back, then that's not very comfortable. So you just can't lounge as well in the bridge hammock. And sitting in it, I don't think is as comfortable as my gathered in hammock because of the two ridge lines and how the bug net is designed. So To me, that is a con of the bridge hammock in comparison to my gathered-in hammock. It's just not that comfortable for lounging. The final issue that I have with the Banyan Bridge Hammock has to do with hanging my tarp. So when you saw me set up my hammock, you saw me set up these spreader bars, and you may have seen these little orange things that I have at the end of my spreader bars. So I have them at my foot end, and I have them at my head end as well. Well, what this is that is just an earplug, and I've kind of created a little hole, and I put it on the end of this spreader bar, because that's what, that's what makes it connect into this little piece of hardware here. But you'll see why here in a minute, why I put this on the ends of my spreader bars. Now that my tarp is set up, let me get into my hammock and show you the issues that I have. All right, hopefully this will come out that you can see. Like I said, getting into the hammock is always a bit tricky for a bridge. It's a bit wobbly. And what you'll notice is that as I'm sitting on one end, the other end is up in the air. And you can see my spreader bar is touching my tarp. And if I didn't have that earplug on it, it could potentially tear and rip my tarp. And I've seen that in other hammock camping videos. I believe it was the Shield brothers. I think they were actually doing a demonstration, and they accidentally tore one of their tarps, one of their Dyneema tarps, because they didn't have anything on the end of that spreader bar. So something that I've had to consider in setting up my tarp was, a way that I could pitch it so that may not be an issue. And you'll see on this side, if you look at it, you'll see that that end doesn't touch the tarp, right? And that's because when I pitched that stake on that end, I pitched it further away from my hammock, and the tarp is set at a higher angle. Now sometimes, if it's raining and storming, you want to pitch it low, and you're going to want to pitch it tight, and that's why I'm glad I have those earplugs to prevent those spreader bars from tearing my hammock. Now I've had this hammock for almost a couple years, I think. And when Dutch first came out with this hammock, I don't believe he had any little accessories that could go on the end of those spreader bars to protect your hammock or protect your tarp. So that's why I got the earplugs. I just dug a little hole in them, and now I've worked a good hole that will cover up the end of those spreader bars and protect my tarp. I believe now he does have accessories that will go on the end of it, because that is an issue. If you're going to use a bridge hammock and you're getting in, you're going to have to consider when it goes up, is it hitting your tarp? And if it is hitting your tarp, what are you doing to protect it? You'll need to have something on the end of those spreader bars so it does not tear your tarp. Well, that's going to do it for this video. That is the Dutch Banyan Bridge Hammock, and it is fabulous. I get my best night's sleep out of that hammock, and I really do love it. I love the fact that I can customize it just like my chameleon to fit my needs, and it's just a wonderful hammock. It just weighs heavier, and that's really what you need to decide: is sleep more important, or is weight, trying to minimize your weight, more important? Typically I would have taken that on short trips where distance, I'm not hiking that many miles. But like I said, this year is the year of the Banyan Bridge Hammock. And I'm gonna see, I'm gonna see whether that weight is enough of a penalty, because I'm gonna take this hammock on short distance trips, on long distance trips, and I'm just gonna try it out to see if that weight really is a penalty. Because I sleep so great in that hammock. And I'm thinking that my sleep is going to be more of a benefit than the weight that I'm carrying on my shoulders. And I really look forward to testing it out this entire backpacking season. All right, folks, thanks for watching, and keep on blazing.